50-50. It sounds fair. It sounds logical. You pay half, I pay half. You take care of your part, I take care of mine. But here's the truth. 50-50 thinking in relationships keeps couples small, stuck, and often silently resentful. And if you've ever tried it, you already know. It doesn't feel like a partnership. It feels like two people keeping score. When I first got married, I remember hearing all sorts of advice. Make sure you split everything evenly. Keep your finances separate. It's safer. Or don't let one person hold the power. Or make sure you have your secret nest egg. All of this made sense on paper, but my husband and I, we never did 50-50. From day one, we put everything into one pool. Every paycheck, every bonus, every dime went into the same pot. And it wasn't because I didn't want my independence or control. It was because we weren't focused on fairness. We were focused on what we could build together. So today, I'm talking about why 50-50 just doesn't work and what actually does. What really builds trust, wealth, and a life worth sharing. It's not about fairness. It's about alignment. It's about having the same vision and working as a team. Let's talk about what happens when you try to operate in a 50-50 relationship. First, you start keeping score. Who paid for dinner last time? Who's covering the rent this month? Who's pulling more weight? Keeping score doesn't build trust. It actually builds resentment. Over time, you're no longer looking at what you're building as a team. You're looking at what you're each getting out of it. That mindset is not conducive for a true partnership. The second issue with 50-50 thinking is that it creates competition. Instead of we, you start thinking me versus you. When life gets tough and someone can't hold up their end, the competition turns toxic. What happens if one partner loses a job? What if someone wants to step back to raise kids or go back to school? Suddenly, the fairness rulebook falls apart, and the very foundation of your relationship feels unstable. Life rarely works in a perfect balance. Someone will carry more weight during certain seasons, and that's okay. That's one of the biggest benefits of a partnership. A 2022 study from Cornell University found that couples who pool their finances reported significantly higher satisfaction and stability than those who keep things separate. That's not a coincidence. Pooling money removes the mine's versus yours mentality and replace it with ours. It's about trust, not fairness. And yet the culture we live in is obsessed with fairness. Why is that? I believe it's because being fair feels safe. We're taught to protect ourselves financially. Don't depend on anyone. Keep it fair. But here's the thing. Marriage is like a business partnership, but a strong one where both partners are 100-100. In a successful business, you don't show up with half effort, keeping tabs on what you did. You show up fully committed to the shared vision, knowing that each partner contributes differently at different times. Some days you're the strategist, some days you're in the trenches. And the best partnerships thrive because both people bring everything they've got. Skills, resources, time, and trust without constantly renegotiating their worth. That's what marriage is. Two people showing up 100-100 to build something bigger than themselves. Research published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that financial satisfaction directly impacts marital happiness. But the interesting part is, satisfaction doesn't come from fairness. It comes from shared goals, shared values, and shared efforts. In her book, The Meaning of Marriages, Tim Keller explains that marriages thrive not on fair exchanges, but on radical generosity, giving more than what's required, because you're invested in something bigger than yourself. When my husband and I got married, we asked ourselves an important question. What are we building? Our answer was simple: a life, a family, and a future. But building that life together meant we had to stop worrying about who was contributing what. And yes, there were times where he earned more and I had to stay home, and there were times where I could carry us financially. But we didn't see it as my money or his money. It was our money, our time, our dream. And here's what I've learned over 20 years of being in a partnership with my husband. Pooling money only works if you're building the same dream. The real problem in relationships isn't finances, it's misalignment. Couples fight about money all the time, but 9 times out of 10, those fights aren't about dollars and cents. They're about vision. One partner wants security, the other wants risk. One partner dreams of traveling the world, the other wants to save every penny. It's like you're both in a boat rowing as hard as you can, but in opposite directions. It doesn't matter how hard you row, you're going nowhere. A study recently found that 53% of couples cite financial disagreement as a leading cause of divorce. And it's not just about spending habits, it's about value. It's about two people working towards completely different outcomes. My husband and I sat down early in our marriage and had what I call the big picture talk. We asked ourselves, what do we want out of our lives? Where do we see ourselves in 5, 10, 20 years? How do we want to handle our money, our careers, our family? That clarity freed us. We didn't need to split every penny evenly because we were working towards the same outcome. So, how do you align your vision and stop keeping score? First, you have to have that big picture talk. Sit down and ask the tough questions. What does success look like for us? What are we building together? What are our shared goals for saving, investing, and living? If you're not aligned on the big things, you'll constantly argue about the little ones. Second, create a shared financial system. I'm not saying you can't have some independence, but pooling resources allow you to work towards common goals faster. It's like playing a team sport. You don't win by competing with each other, you win by collaborating with one another. Third, show up with everything you got. A relationship isn't 50-50, it's 100-100. You don't bring your half, you bring your all. That's what partnership looks like. Couples who embrace joint financial goals and systems report higher psychological well-being and trust. Why? Because pooling resources isn't just about money. It's about aligning your values, your dreams, and your efforts. It's about saying, we're in this together. At the end of the day, fairness doesn't create abundance, vision does. When you're focused on fairness, you'll never grow beyond enough. But when you're focused on what you can build together, the possibilities are endless. My husband and I have been married for over 10 years. We've built businesses, raised kids, continue to raise kids, and weathered seasons where one of us carried more weight than the other. But we've never once argued about who paid for what. We definitely argued about other things, but not who was paying for what. Why was that? Because we're on the same team, working towards the same dream. So I'll leave you with this. Stop keeping score, start having the big conversations, align your vision, because when you do that, the question isn't who paid for dinner, the question is what can we build next? Fairness keeps you small, vision makes you unstoppable. Until next time.